Here. His name's Ray Bilney, and I'm sure quite a few people are aware of that, but I think there'd be quite a few unaware of that. And there's a little bit of a theme to this tonight, so I had to have a look. You've got your own Wikipedia page, Ray?
Is that right?
Yep, you're pretty special. So, 1964, you went to the Olympics in Tokyo, and previous to that, no, after that, you, as an 18-year-old, you went. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
How was it in Tokyo back in '64?
Well, I suppose I can go back a little bit further than that, Tim, and it's really directed to you. In that times were a little bit different from 1964, and the journey to the Olympics for me took 4 months, whereas these days you need 10 years to get an Olympian. Is that right?
Yeah.
10 years. So my journey to the Olympics started when I was Australian junior road champion in 1963, and I was invited to attend the Victorian training squad for the Olympics starting in January 1964. So in 1963, in November, I went and bought this bike. Went to Hillman's in Melbourne and I bought that frame. You didn't buy bikes in those days. You just bought a frame and put some stuff on it and made a bike out of it. So I went to Henry Hill and he built that bike for me. And then I went into the training team and we trained for a few months. And then they had 3 test races and I won one and got some places. So I was in the Victorian team because in those days you didn't enter the Australian Championship. You had to make your state team. So I was in the 6, and then we went in June, so January to June now. Went to the Australian Championships, and I won. So I was in the Olympics. I'd made it, and it's a little bit different today, Tim.
Yeah, well, we'll get some of the Olympic riders that are heading to Tokyo this year up pretty soon, but I reckon one of the questions you could ask them is, what would you think about that selection process? Just got to win and you're on your way. Yeah, so anyway, how many Australian Championships did you win in a row?
4. 4, a junior and 3 seniors, yeah.
Round of applause. So you went straight from juniors into elite and won 3 national championships. That's pretty special. Now, 64 was the beginning of a pretty special era on yourself, but also a European rider who rode those Olympics. His name was Eddie Merckx. Now Ray finished 4th in the Olympic road race, so just outside the medals, 195 kilometres. Where did Eddie finish?
You'd have to tell me that, Tim, I don't know.
Eddie Merckx finished 12th. Right? And then the Italian one, I don't know his name, but at this stage of some of the young guys here, there's a really good Italian rider that's going to try and upset some of the men here, but I think that deserves a round of applause. Eddie Merckx was certainly the greatest road and track cyclist of his era, and we're standing here with a guy that ran 4th in the Olympic road race as an 18-year-old. It's pretty amazing. Have you got any words of advice for everyone here, like especially young riders and that sort of stuff? What was your motivation, or what was your little key things that made you click in your cycling career? Because, you know, to win anything a few times in a row, it's pretty special, and it takes a really strong and tough mindset. So, you know, you won 4 Australian titles in a row, for example. What were the things that made you click?
Well, I don't know really. I know it made me click in the junior championship that I won, because we had a sprinter in Australia, Gordon Johnson, who I raced against every second week in the juniors, and I'd always get second fastest time, and he would always get fastest time because he was the fastest guy in the world. And so when I went to the junior championship, I knew I couldn't go to the finish with Gordon. So we broke away, and Gordon won the sprint in and I got first. So I suppose you've got to think about what you're going to do and who you're going to race, because that can make a big difference to the outcome. You see it all the time with the professionals, and the ones that are really good figure out how to win, and those that don't quite make it never kind of figure it out. So you've got to know your opposition and work on your strengths and perhaps their weaknesses.
Very well said. What about we move on to getting some future Olympians up, Ray, and maybe you can ask them a couple of questions. We've got the women's team here. So if the women's team want to make their way up here, and I can introduce as you come up. Or some of the women's team, a couple have been a little bit sick. So we've got Annette Edmondson here, Mae Plouffe. We've got Alex Manley, who hasn't been named in the team yet, but she's in the long squad, and potentially that naming will come out very soon. She's been training with the squad very well and certainly performed very well. So we hope to see Alex at the Olympics as well. Want to step forward, ladies? Just come up here. So these are all Rays, little medals and stuff. So do you know these ladies? No? Okay. Is there a question you'd like to ask them?
Not really a question, I'd just like to say how great it is to have the ladies riding the way they do. They are awesome. They are really awesome. And I went for a ride yesterday with Phil here, and we rode 70k in a little bit more time than you rode 120 today. So I suppose that puts it into perspective how good these ladies are. And I noticed last week, 2 weeks ago in the Warrnambool, the 3 ladies who finished first, second and third rode the Warrnambool, which in Div 1. And they rode it at an average speed of 42k an hour for 260k. I just think that's phenomenal. And I can't offer them any advice because they're so good. And they're in good hands. So it's a new sport now, and when I rode there was no ladies riders. None. They didn't have such a thing. It's quite amazing, and these ladies they're so talented, so keep it up.
Any questions you have for Ray? Maybe. Yep.
Obviously, it's pretty inspiring that you went to the Olympics as an 18-year-old. What would you have told your younger self going to the Olympics that young?
I suppose I didn't have time to think about that. That was a bit of a whirlwind because once I won a few races, I was in the Olympics, and that's what I say. The difference now is you people train for years to do that. And you're better at it than we were, and stronger. But I didn't think of that. I've been riding almost with the seniors for a number of years, but as we did in those days, and I could kind of keep up all right and win a sprint here and then. And then, you know, it happened pretty quickly and I was in the games, and that was that. And didn't really think about it.
How long did your career end up lasting? 15 years or something?
Well, I rode as a junior for quite a few years. Was in the Victorian squad. And then my last international race was at Edinburgh in 1970, so I was riding only from 1963 to 1970 as a senior in top competition. Obviously, I found it pretty hard at that stage. We just built a new house, and you know, you're working, training at the night, you know, just like, and it wears you down. And I think a lot of the older riders did get worn down and couldn't keep up that high level of training that you needed to do. And so 1970 was my last international race.
Okay. Nettie has one.
What did cycling teach you that you took into your future, and that you've learned? What lessons did you learn from cycling that you put into life off the bike?
Pretty good question. I suppose when you're doing it, you do build up a certain resilience to be able to take on different things. You're having falls, you have setbacks. It's never a straight journey to be at the top. So over the years, I suppose that I took that with me. You know, things are going to go bad, and they're going to come good. The other thing I learnt was if people don't expect that you haven't got expectations that you can do it, then you've got to ignore those people. You've got to make your own journey and try and forge forward. I always remember when I went to the Olympics at 18, our actual team manager wrote that he didn't think our road team was any good. He didn't think anyone was going to finish, and if we did, we'd be 3 hours behind. That was from the team manager 6 weeks before we went. And I think I've learned that you just have to ignore those people and move on.
Well, you certainly proved him wrong, didn't you? Okay, we might get the Olympic men's team up. They can come forward. That would be great. You're not going anywhere yet. The boys will have some questions. So feel free to have a chat to these riders and the coaches. So we have the national coaches here as well, moving around the room. So Glenn O'Shea, Rowan White and Alex Greenfield are here as well. And we've got some of the Podium Potential Academy riders here as well. So feel free to have a chat and a catch up if you need to. So we're missing Alex Porter. He's been a little bit unwell today. But here we have Sam Welsford, Cullen O'Brien, Lee Howard and Lucas Platt. Rightio, boys, you got any questions for Ray?
What's your favourite training ride, or what was your favourite training ride when you were training for the Olympics?
Well, when I was selected, the good people I worked for in Ballarat gave me a day off a week for 6 weeks before I went, and that was me training through the day, and that was great because training the night in Ballarat in August wasn't all that good. But during those 6 weeks, and before and after, we used to always go around what they call the Midlands Tour course in Victoria, which started from Ballarat to go to Bilney, Blackwood, Trenton, and Dales, and home that way. And used to do that. That's where I used to go.
Anyone else got any questions for that?
I've got two questions. No, two. Beer or wine? Neither. Alright, that's good. Good answer. Good answer. And the real question is, what gears did you guys used to race on?
Well, that's the big difference these days. On the track with in a team race on the track, I used to ride a fair few Madisons. We would ride 89-inch gear, which I think 49-15, 49-15. Phil reckons I'm no good at numbers. And for you guys, it's a spin in the park. But that's what all the 6-day riders used to ride. They used to always ride 80, 88, 89. That's what we used to do. On the track, say handicap, we'd ride the 92. Now, do you understand 92, or you need the other numbers? Some people can't. Yeah, I'm bloody small. That's right. And on the road, we never had a sprocket smaller than 13. So 13.53 is my biggest gear.
That is about 111, I reckon, something like that. Is that what you used to sprint at the Olympics? Were you in the 13? Because I was flat out in the 11 today. So. Boys, girls, I didn't ask you to disappear. You hadn't finished yet, but anyway, you can come back up if you want. So, does anyone have any questions for these boys? Because, and the girls, for a matter of fact. So, just talking about, Ray's been talking about the Olympics and his journey a little bit. It all happened very quick, by the sounds of it. Won the Australian road title and then was basically on his way to Tokyo. For this squad here, just to give you some indication, some of the athletes have been preparing for this for over 10 years, or they've been to a few Olympics, like Nettie on the end there. Whereas some of the others have fought their way in over the last couple of years, like Luke, Maeve, Alex is fighting her way in. Kel sort of come into the program a little bit later, and forgot about Lee. Lee's actually nearly the father of this whole squad. So, Lee, when did you win your first world championship, Lee? In 2008, 2009. So for anyone out there, you think 2009, that's 2021. He's going to his first Olympics. Chasing the gold medal. So, as we know, cycling is it's a lifestyle, but it also takes a long time. You've got to be very dedicated. So I sort of thought, Sam, maybe you could have a little bit of a discussion around one of your Olympics, and then which was in Rio, and then maybe we could pass to Nettie with a little bit of a backdate at London, Rio. Just a quick couple of words on the experience of being to the Olympics as well, from your points now.
Yeah, well, my first Olympic experience was in Rio de Janeiro in 2016, along with Nettie. She was there with me, and now there's not many of us that are from my team. I'm the only one that's still going. Got a whole new bag of blokes next to me, which I'm really glad to have. But yeah, the whole Olympic experience is something I'll probably never forget in my life, and it's really hard to explain to these guys what it feels like without actually being there, and the atmosphere at all and the pressure. I always say it's when you walk into that velodrome in the Olympics, and it's all set up. There's Olympic rings on the middle of the bend, and that's when you really start to think in about where you are and all the training you've done leading to this one point. But unfortunately, my team got beaten by the Brits by 0.7 of a second. So it was really close, but I was also 20 at that age, so it was really awesome for me to get a silver medal. I was talking to Glenn O'Shea, he was there with me actually, and he was...
You could get Glenn up.
Yeah, Glenn was at the Olympics, and he's got a silver medal as well in the team shoot, and he was explaining how hard it is to describe the sensations of getting a medal but not winning. Like Olympic final, you're racing another team on the track, most of you probably know, for that gold medal, and essentially getting a silver medal in that race means you've lost. But it's really quite hard to sink in because, like I said, it's still a silver medal at the Olympics. So for me, reflecting on that now, and I'd like to ask Ray, like, how that still feels for you now, getting a silver medal. So how that feels and how that feels as you grow older.
Yeah, well, it is a disappointment when you look back and say, well, a little bit faster than you got on the first, especially in the Olympics. I missed out on a bronze medal by a couple of inches, so that stabs you in the heart a little bit. It'd be good to have a medal there. You guys have done it. I don't think also you should just concentrate on the Olympics. The awesome experience or results these people have had in the World Championships, just from a cycling point of view, and me as loving the sport, it's just been an era of satisfaction seeing results that you people have achieved. I think personally the Olympics is good, and it's probably the top of the tree, but I think it's overrated when you compare it with World Championships. I'd ask you, is it harder to win an Olympic medal than winning a World Championship?
I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, like, I do agree it is very hard to win a World Championships, and I think because it's every year, you take it for granted, I think. I remember when we won our first one, and it was pretty special, and if you win a few of them, you're like, oh, yeah, it's still special, but it's not the Olympics. But if you look back at the World Championships, there's actually more countries there, there's more athletes, so it's a lot harder really to win as well. As long as the Olympics is the top of the tree, and every 4 years it is a rarer event, but I think that, like, I agree, they're just as hard to win.
Eddie, want to give us a short rundown on onto your third Olympics now?
Yes, I've been around for a while. I back in 2010 I was track sprinting, and then I kind of ran out of love for the sport and I didn't really know what to do, so then I ended up having a bit of a break, and then the Omnium had been announced as an Olympic event for the first time, and so back then it was 6 events. It had 3 endurance events and there were 3 sprint events, so I thought, well, I've already got 3 of them covered, like, let's just work on my endurance. And so that became the new target, and then with the help of Timmy at Sassy, so who's back in the South Australian Sports Institute at that point, we came up with a massive plan to somehow make the team after having 4 months off after being a sprinter. So I was not in great shape, but when you have that goal in mind and you're hungry and you believe it, I've never been more motivated than that. We somehow managed to sneak into that team a couple of years later. And so I think I was 20 at the time, so it was all a bit of a rush, a bit like Ray as well. A lot of people didn't believe that we could do it, and I think, like you said before, Ray, I also agreed. Sometimes it's actually more motivating when someone says that you can't do it, because more motivation to prove them wrong. So we managed to sneak into that team. Things didn't quite go to plan in the team pursuit for us. We came we came 4th. So we came 2nd at the World Championships in February, and so I think we really believed that we could win gold, and that was our dream. And so I think we didn't go in there thinking we would win, but we were knocked out of the gold-silver final, and I think that kind of ruffled some feathers a bit, and then unfortunately we came 4th in the final, so it was pretty heartbreaking, but I was very lucky in that I had the Omnium, so I did have one more chance to get on that podium, and it was awesome. And I think that moment then, because obviously I wanted to win gold, but I came home with a bronze. But I think after experiencing that 4th place, I think it really did put things in perspective for me. And I think I really appreciated what I'd done and where I was. And yeah, that moment standing on that podium will be with me forever. 4 years later, obviously hungry, we wanted to change the results in the team pursuit. I was more experienced, 4 more years under the belt. The entire team was a lot more experienced because the average age of the Australian team at the 2012 games was 22. So we had a lot of fresh legs in there. Most of us were there for the first time, so we had a lot more experience behind us, and we really wanted to come home with a different result. Unfortunately, we had a crash 3 days before, so some of my teammates who aren't here tonight, they actually are in Mount Gambier, but they came down sick this morning. So Georgia Baker and Ashton Kuninoff, they unfortunately came down as well. And so wasn't the best prep for a team pursuit, 3 days out to have 4 members out of 5 on the ground with broken bikes and 1 person in hospital. But I'm not saying it's an excuse. I can still remember we came home and we were just like, nah, we got nothing to lose. It's just another bump. Never know what to expect. You don't know what form you're in. But unfortunately, the best we could do was 5th. So we came home with 5th. I had another shot in the Omnium. Didn't quite go to plan either. Came home with 8th. So I can say that coming home to Australia and seeing your bedroom set up the way you left it when you had all these ambitions to come home with 2 gold medals and then coming home with nothing was a pretty hard few months for me and a lot of the team. But what's actually really been interesting is with the postponement of the games due to COVID and with the thought of the idea that maybe the Olympics won't go ahead being potential, I think it really put into perspective just how important those games are and how much they mean to me. And even just the experience of going is just so special. So we grovelled through the COVID year with a lot of support from the team. Everyone's been training really hard, and obviously we can't train and race overseas this year, so we've had to change things. But we're almost there, 3 months to go, and the light's at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to be really strange not having a crowd or any fans it's going to be such a strange thing. But the thing is, we're going to be in a bubble anyway. We're going to be in our own hotel because we're 3 hours away from the village. So not a lot changes for us. I think it's actually an advantage, to be honest, because I think if something goes wrong in that village, I think it will spread quickly. So we're going to be in a bubble, away from it all, focus on what we can do best. And we've been training here for so long. We're used to an empty crowd in the velodrome. So I'm really excited, and we've got some very strong legs around us. So I'm very thankful for my teammates for getting me through some challenging times in training. But like I said before, just when the threat of it not being there, and then to actually make the most of every opportunity we have to race, like being here today, it was hard. It was really hard out there. Special shout out to Ruby, she really got the bunch going. But these are the moments that you've got to dig through, and obviously they'll pay off later on. So thanks to everyone for holding these races, and thanks for everyone who supported us on this journey.
We might wrap up in a minute. I've just got a couple of things that I might want to cover off on. We have a guy in the room that's ridden the Tour de France in Lee. He doesn't like talking much, but Lee, give us a rundown of today compared to the toughest stage in the Tour.
Put me on the spot with that one.
Give us a tour experience.
Oh, yeah. There's days they're just hours on end of grovelling. Probably 15 out of 21 stages you're just fighting to get to the finish, and then the other 5 or 6 you're actually fighting for the win. Like today, from the word go, we were always trying to win. We knew we were in the hunt for the win. And those days that you're out there just trying to make time cut up the big mountains and stuff, they're really difficult because, as I said, you're not fighting to win. And you're going through just as much, probably even more pain than half the guys that are actually fighting for the win. And, look, I'd say after 4 to 5 days, you're already pretty knackered, to be completely honest. And everyone says the same thing, but you get to a point where it's you can't get much lower than what you are. You wake up feeling like you're crawling out of a coffin, and from day 5 onwards, it pretty much doesn't change. Occasionally you have better days, and occasionally you'll have worse days where you really struggle, but it's just a grovel, it really is. And like they say here, getting over hump day on a Wednesday, I think it is. That's usually in a Grand Tour. That's the second rest day. So you get past the second rest day, and that's sort of hump day. Well, at least it always was for me during Grand Tours. And once you get past that, generally you, I won't never say you're safe, but as long as there's no big surprises and big mountain starts, they were always the hardest. When you had a stage that started straight up a mountain, that was always dangerous, because if you got dropped early in the stage as a sprinter, you had a long way to go to get to the finish within time cuts. So, but yeah, that's as best I can sum it up, I think.
That's great, isn't it? Guy that's ridden the tour, and down here, did you grovel today, Lee?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Didn't look like it. Look, I think we'll...
Tim,
Yes.
Lee, what team did you ride for?
I am.
I am Lee Howard. That's what it is. His team. Look, the two young ones in this team. Just a couple of words on what were your driving thoughts to try and crack into this Olympic team, and then we'll move on to the two winners of the mount. Who wants to go first, Maeve or Luke?
So yeah, I was a late addition to this team, and it was really tough to try and crack into this really well-established team. You know, we've got, at the time, there were 7 other girls who had this Olympic dream just like I did, and who were riding really well and had their sights set on gold in Tokyo. So it was difficult to crack in. I guess it was just a lot of self-belief, and as you said before, just not listening to anything around, just believing in yourself. But it's also beneficial having those more elite riders to look up to and to sort of to inspire you every day. It made me laugh when Nettie was just talking before, because it made me remember that before she headed off to Rio, she actually sold me my first pair of road cycling shoes. Some $30 DMTs. So look, I have looked up to these athletes my entire life, so I remember even just getting my first call up for a World Cup to ride with them, and knowing that, you know, and getting to ride on their wheels and wear that kit, and knowing I want to do this, I want this to be my job, and I want to go to Olympic Games with this team. So that's a great motivation.
Yeah, for me it was actually pretty similar to Maeve, but one of the first times I was on the track, I did a come and try Madison Day with Lee, so that was kind of cool. I got to meet one of my idols, and all these boys I've looked up to for the last few years, and being able to see what they've achieved in the TPs. They've won a fair few of them. I was sitting at home with mum and dad on the couch, and to watch them break that 3-minute 50 barrier, and I think by that time I knew a bit of them, so it was nicer to see the emotion come out of them, and you were almost a bit part of the story. So it was pretty special, and had goosebumps watching them do that, and I think that was the motivation for me. I wanted to be able to experience that and feel the same feeling as they did, and I think you can really see the culture and the family that they've got, and you're not just winning, you're really sharing something special for a lifetime. So for me that was a big motivation to try and crack into the team, and me and Maeve joined at the same time, and since then it's been really awesome to be a part of it. And for me, I also like how the women's and men's teams, it's quite a family as well. It's not 2 different pods, we're one team working towards the same goal.
Yeah, what stands out there is you know, the link, you know, 1964, similar mindset, 2018 to 21 for the young athletes. So some things never change, do they? You know, mindset has such a big impact in any sporting arena, but certainly in cycling. Just quickly, our 2 winners. So I'm not sure who wants to go first here, but let's talk about the importance of today and how you found today, and what it means to you to have a win here today.
Oops, sorry. Well, today for me, I haven't done many handicaps for a few years because I was in Europe for most of that. But for me, when I get into a handicap these days, I'm just thinking, okay, now I just got to bring back the break, or I'm thinking of it as like a team race, and this is just my job. We just got to bring back the break and the next thing, and just next processing all the time. What's the next goal? What's the next thing I need to do? And if you get to the position where you can win it, it's like, okay, how am I going to win it? So that's what today was for me. And yeah, I really appreciate the event, and it's really important that we have these events and we can come do them, because this is where cycling, like the grassroots, can come up and people can race, and it's really important to just race and get the race brain working and learn how to win, because sometimes, well, for me, when I was 19, I was signed World Tour, but I didn't know how to win a race yet. I was not ready for that. But now it's interesting coming back, and I'm at a level where I can try and win a race, and you can learn a lot more actually when you race, where you're probably the level you're at, and you can probably gain a lot more from that. So yeah, races like this at any level are super, super important.
Yeah, I think Alex said how special these sorts of races are. We've had, as a team, we've had a really good block of, what I like to think is, classic Australian country racing, and we started off the block with a race from Wagga to Albury, a handicap, and then we moved on to a weekend in Caston, not far down the road. Now this weekend here at the Mount. They're super special races, and obviously Tim has a pretty massive impact on all of us, and this race means a lot to him, or all the races mean a lot to him, but this race especially, and of course the Warning, which was like 2 weeks ago. So there's been lots of racing on, and it's really great to have those sorts of races. And when I was growing up in the cycling world, all the older guys that I look up to always talked about the handicaps. They were always the hardest races to win, and the hardest races, and that's where all the stories came from. A race like today is super, super important and super special, and it's great that we can come and do it. And this is sort of like our last push before we head on to the Olympics, so it's pretty awesome to wrap it up here. And I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everyone for making it happen. It's for me, it's pretty special to take. I think this is the first road handicap I've ever won, so it's it's pretty special to take this on, and it's a good one to win.
Ray, just quickly, how many starts did you have in the 100 mile?
Not many. The 100 mile back in the old days was a professional road race. This is the days when cycling had two groups, a professional group and an amateur group. So I didn't really race this until I think I raced in 1977, which is well after I'd given up international competition. And then I rode a couple of times since I've been in Mount Gambier. I'm over 50 years old, so me and Gordon Crown used to train for it. And Gordon, he won it one year, so that was pretty good. And I was with Gordon the day he was killed out the road here. And it means a lot to remember his victory there. So I only rode this about 4 times, well into my senior years, but people like Gordon and yourself, Tim, they live for these races.
Yeah, Gordon won it when he was 53, didn't he? Yeah. What was your best performance here?
The year I rode, when I was a little bit younger, 1977, I was 30 something. I think I was 5th there. That was my best.
Beautiful. All right, we super appreciate your time up here, Ray, and you've been a great inspiration to everyone here tonight, and I'm sure to a lot of people throughout your journey, and to hear a bit about your journey is pretty inspirational. I think it's fantastic, the alignment that you went in 64 to Tokyo, and we've got a squad here going to Tokyo in 2021. Just like to thank you a lot, and I think these athletes here and all athletes and people in this room can take some inspiration from that. And we'd like to thank the Mount Gambier Cycling Club and the people that put in all the hard work to get this off the ground and keep it going, which is really important. Thank you for the hard work. I know, Tina, you've been on it for a while, and Dean, and we really appreciate it in these tough times. And from all of us, it's a big thanks from the Olympic team and the academy team and the coaches to be able to come down and have this competition, and to be able to tell a little bit of a story, and hopefully you're all watching and supporting August 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and yell into those tallies as loud as you can for the squad. Thank you.